Welcome everybody to the following session. So that was a great session there at about U4SSE standards, and we a great group also to work with, and we have two further excellent people here to talk about data competences for cities and regions and urban data platforms and kind of how they interrelate. With our new co-partner Fraunhofer, we have Eva Ottendorfer and Stefan Braun, who will be presenting. So Eva will be talking about the Competence Center, and then Stefan will give some well, overall remarks also on kind of strategic directions, what we can expect, what they see from the perspective of an institute like Fraunhofer, who of course is very well known in terms of competences in all kinds of areas, but especially also, at least from what I see, cities, digital, and all kinds of verticals. I think that are very interesting to cities looking to advance their societies. So, without taking up too much time from the speakers we actually invited, I'm sure the people who have been following the festival are growing tired of my interventions slowly. So Eva, please, the floor is yours to start talking. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to share our latest activities and developments in the area of data competences and data platforms. As Davor mentioned already, my name is Eva Ottendorfer. I'm the head of the Morgenstadt network at the Fraunhofer Society. The network was already founded in 2012, and since then it has established and implemented numerous projects on sustainable urban development on a national, international, and regional level. So I'm here to present our latest project, the Data Competence Center for Cities and Regions. But before I do that, I would like to hand over to Stefan so he can shortly introduce himself as well.
Yes, thank you, of course. Hi, I'm happy to be here, of course. I'm calling in from Stuttgart, Germany. I'm one of 8 research directors at Fraunhofer IAO in Stuttgart, and leading at the moment 7 research groups like EFAS and a lot of others, which are dealing with, of course, future cities in general on a national and international level, and of course happy to discuss some ideas and developments after Eva's impulse.
Okay, great. So I will share my screen now. So I hope you see my screen. As I mentioned, our latest activity in this area is the founding of the Data Competence Center for Cities and Regions, which is accompanied by the Morgenstadt Urban Data Community. I think we are all aware by now of the potential that data and data platforms offer for cities, so I don't want to bore you too long with this. I mean, we can use, once we have collected and harmonized data, we can use it to visualize the status quo of cities, but can also use this data to evaluate and analyze certain information and then develop new applications based on this information. However, at the moment, we still have this, what we call the blind spot in the urban data community, or there's this gap between the data sets which are there, but they are hardly aggregated, and usually cities have problems to share them and the development of these solutions. And this blind spot is connected to some hurdles which still exist within a lot of city administrations, like the silo keeping of data, but also a lack of knowledge how this data can be shared with third parties, or how third-party data can actually be used. And there often is no uniform standardized aggregation and preparation of the relevant data. So very often cities also lack a simple, cheap, high quality and standard IT solution that can be used directly. These hurdles lead to a missing link, and we still do need a solution for this blind spot, especially in relation with the development of the Gaia cloud network, which is going on at the moment as well. So these solutions would be an open source infrastructure. Of course, this already exists to some extent based on open standards. But what is very important is the issue of data sovereignty, which is coming up now, which is getting more and more important. And there is still, the relevant offer is still not there yet. And we need better data governance concerning the control and regulation of data exchange and the existence of trusted data brokers. All in all, this could lead to a win-win-win situation, but many cities are not there yet. What we are offering is the data competence. We still use the German acronym DKSR, Datenkompetenzzentrum Städte und Regionen, because at the very moment we are planning to implement it in Germany first. On the second step, it will be spread all over Europe. But what is the DKSR so far? It's an open source data platform according to the latest standards, of course, and it's based on an already tested or used platform, the Urban Pulse from the Urban Institute, which is used in over 40 cities already. We can provide data sovereignty by applying an IDS connector, which is also a basis for the Gaia-X, and we have IDS compliant tools for preparing the data records, developed by Fraunhofer IESE, another Fraunhofer Institute in Kaiserslautern. We offer a connection to all common data sources and applications to have a complete representation of the smart city ecosystem. So we do offer an ecosystem of applications and smart city companies as well on this platform. And we also have a complete fiber integration with the Orient Context Broker. So on the one hand, cities can use the open source data platform completely by themselves. If they don't want to, we offer support services for municipalities, and we also offer the exchange and project development within the Morgenstadt Urban Data Community. So the DKSR is completely neutral, and it strictly separates between data governance or management and data usage. With this solution, it's also possible to have these synergies in between municipalities. First, and also on a European level, because you can have an individual solution, but you can still exchange data and you can still use an already scaled solution where you still have the municipal freedom of design. That's our idea. Coming to this final point, the Morgenstadt Urban Data Community, as I mentioned already, it's the community which works on the development of the platform, and we offer a decision process where all the users of the platform can actually come together and develop new use cases together, new data models, and so on and so forth. So we offer more or less of a democratic process for defining use cases for the future, what's important and what's coming up, and also knowledge exchange and best practices. And the Morgenstadt Coordination Office at Fraunhofer IAO in Stuttgart will coordinate the community while DKSR supports it with its platform. That's our idea. So just one second. This community will work as an innovation incubator, so we can have this moderated dialogue and also information management independent of DKSR. So we are able to work together, and this community is open for anybody. All members of DKSR are also members of the community, but you are also able to be part of the community independently of DKSR, which OASC, for example, will make use of as soon as we have founded the community. One final slide. These are the partners of DKSR. mentioned already, it's based on an Urban Pulse platform of UI. Morgenstadt is on board, Telekom is on board, and Accessio. So far about the DKSR as our project, and I am handing over to Davo.
Thank you, Eva. That's a really good, I think, overview also for cities to understand, okay, how can we get involved. So also just we understand that it's, let's say, German based at the moment, but this will change or evolve towards a more European approach. So for the cities in our network, we'll monitor that. And of course, with Fraunhofer now being a part of OASC, we will organize proper information when the time is there and so forth. Stefan, I was looking forward also to some of your reflections and comments before I kind of do maybe a more plenary round of discussions.
Yeah, sure. Maybe I just would like to highlight, as you already mentioned, I think it's really great to be on board. I think the timing couldn't be better. Maybe having at the beginning of 2021, having a partnership like Morgenstadt, OASC together and working on these topics. Of course, you have also a lot of years of experience looking back also to your development here. We have done the same. And yeah, of course, when we see that kind of developments, dynamics around Gaia X, and of course, the question of how to bundle the strengths we have in Europe, right? To define this really idea of social smart cities, open smart cities, agile smart cities. I think really it's kind of crucial to find this common ground for that. And this is something I'm really looking forward, of course. I'm still struggling, I guess, a lot of us on the daily work and when it comes to COVID and of course the consequences. I think moving forward on this topic and creating kind of joint standards, open standards and so on. I think this is really the important part. And I hope, of course, I think we have it in the hand and there's so much, I would say, resources to build up to, looking, for example, to the last European smart cities and communities projects, for example, where we worked also with a lot of European cities in different projects on a national level, where Germany is maybe as kind of a late mover coming up to speed and having now, I think, over 50 larger funded cities, which are all at the moment about to procure their own smart city platform. I think this is this kind of momentum, which is really interesting to avoid. Of course, I would say on the one hand side that everybody is coming up with its own solutions, right? I think that's a risk, and we still see it maybe in Germany that there is kind of risk. And that's why, of course, we pushed the DKSR so hard, because we see this is kind of window of opportunity to create these alliances. And I think this doesn't have to stop or mustn't stop, of course, on the national borders. So that's, I think we are talking together, and I guess a lot of your topics today and tomorrow are also dealing, and yesterday, the topic how we really create it on a European level. And of course, I hope we can contribute from the Morgenstadt initiative, from the Fraunhofer Society, also, of course, being available in other countries in Europe, not only in Germany. Of course, to contribute to that and really create this kind of alliance, we need to create and to have an umbrella and to have this common ground, of course, to move faster towards, of course, climate neutral cities, maybe coming up to speed with data-driven urban development. This is one hope I have, of course, to be faster in the next 5 years, right, than the last five years. And yeah, so I think there are a lot of challenges, of course, but I would say, of course, we are together on the right track, and we have to intensify, of course, this kind of cooperation in the future.
Yeah, thanks, Stefan. Yeah, looking at your combined comments, it's also something we see in the network. An increasing number of cities are looking for ways to kind of answer to this need of having an urban data platform, something that supports and something that doesn't lock them in, something that they can use to then go and exchange data solution services, with whoever they are working with in any type of context. So it fits very well, of course, with what the OASC and our group of cities and communities strives towards. It reminds me, or at least kind of the view you present there with the nationally integrated strategy reminds me very much also of your session earlier, Martin, on the national strategies of Denmark and the Netherlands and Flanders and Japan, and that discussion that was ongoing there. I wonder, Martin, welcome, by the way, if you had any comments or thoughts here, or questions for Stephanie and Eva.
First of all, I want to express how thankful I am that we can be working even more closely together. I think that's really what is needed to get to this next step, because it's really impossible, I think, from one position to overcome what is before us. And I think the COVID situation and, well, perhaps also some geopolitical developments have shown that we need quite big forces working together. So yes, it was inspiring to hear you and to compare, you know, what's happening in Japan, what's happening in India, what's really the same kind of maturation is happening. We had the session just before with the United Nations common ground, which is in fact reflecting much of this. So my question to you would be twofold. So one thing is, I don't know, aligning Germany. Europe is quite diverse. So this is a lot about governance and power, because I mean, the normal people who usually procure a project and there's some technology and there's financing, it's a little box. Are they willing to give away, you know, that power that they worked a lifetime to have? And that goes for the whole structure in the system. And probably that is expressed in different ways in different territories in Europe. And my other question would be, so what is the global common ground that we couldn't find? Like we have Wi-Fi and internet protocols, and we know more or less how road signs work. Can we find a global common ground so that even if we want to have specific ways to build the stack in Germany or in Europe or in Japan, we can still find a way to exchange? Can we find these global touch points? So those two questions I think are very general. I don't know if it's one to one of you and the other, or up to you.
Maybe ladies first. Eva, you can pick one and I will go for another one. Thank you for the questions, Martin.
This question about giving away power, I think this is the panacea of the whole topic anyway. So I'm sorry, but I might not be able to provide a satisfying answer. I think maybe it's the $1 million question, but I think, well, let's be idealistic. To a certain degree, they have to give away power. Everybody has to give away power. I mean, this is the idea of sharing, and only if we follow it closely and if we follow it consistently, we will actually be able to create the synergies and to provide scalable solutions on an efficient level, first of all. And then I think it's also a matter of perspective, because giving away power is a very zero-sum game approach to this. I mean, of course, you have to give away power in order to align Europe on these matters, and you might have to give up certain privileges that you have been working for over the years. But at the same time, everybody will be gaining from this process. And I think it's not only towards governments in Europe, but also towards populations. I think it's a very important matter how this whole issue is communicated, because from a win-win perspective, there is a lot to win for everybody in this whole system. The potentials are huge, but there is a risk of communicating it in a zero-sum game way, and then people will, I mean, we see it in Germany, people are very reluctant to give away their data, and they are personal data is a very sensible topic, and I think it has to do with this perspective, because people are not aware of what they can win in terms of services, but also in terms of quality of life, livability of cities, carbon neutrality of cities, if they are willing to, and they will be willing to if we can provide data sovereignty, and if we can provide data security, and we are able to communicate this. So this is what this is all about, I think.
I think it was a very good answer.
Sorry, wrong answer. Shall I leave the second question to you, Stefan, or?
As you like, just go on, of course. Yeah, I can just add a little bit. Okay.
The global common ground. I mean, it's even bigger when it comes to a global common ground. I personally definitely see also a very high risk of inequality when it comes to big data. The data, so to say, the data haves and the data have-nots. I'm quite sure this was also a topic in the UN session. I'm sorry I couldn't take part in it, but I mean, here we definitely have to make sure that the benefits of big data and data sharing and data platforms will be there for everybody. And I think this is the biggest challenge. And only on this basis we can actually provide a common ground. So this common, I think it's going to be easier on a European level, maybe still, or if we talk about a global South or a global North, but this common ground has to be global. And there I see the biggest challenges for us yet to come, because that means we have to bring in a lot more support, but data sovereignty also relates to specific countries where we might think we can request them to share their data a lot easier.
And maybe just giving one little comment on maybe on both of these questions. Well, what I see more and more, also having this experience in the last 10 years in that kind of game, is this understanding how we change our regimes and legal systems. For example, I think it's of course on a global level, because we have of course totally different cultural, but of course also legal regimes when it comes to build up data platforms. There's another acceptance, of course, from the users, from the citizens, so on. And even looking for example, coming to your first question, Martin, on the level of power in Europe, I think it's still hard to understand these different legal systems, even between, for example, Germany and France, for example, and between Denmark and Germany, and so on. So, and people still live, of course, on both sides of the border, right, and living there and working there and so on, and they don't understand why we have different laws here and there on the other side. And there's one strategy we are pursuing. Maybe this is something also to work closely together in the future. Is this having joint projects which are really above the borders, for example, because what I just learned last year is that, for example, in France, there's a law where you can take, or let's say a kind of a, how do you say, kind of an opportunity in a research project, or to take the law from another country and adapt it to yours. So you have kind of a mix up of different legal systems, and it can help to create new solutions. It can create a different usage of data and so on. And maybe this is something in little steps in Europe to move forward, to understand. Of course, it's not only about having one city, of course, at a lighthouse project in one country, but to understand how can we take these legal systems above the borders, and how can we mix and merge these boundaries, and understand how we have to shape these boundaries to understand. And I think then it's not a question of power at the first. It's more about changing how and understanding how to change the rules, and making it maybe more democratic and more a common ground, like Eva also mentioned. Maybe this can be an iterative strategy how to move forward on that.
This is why the Flemish are so good, Davor, in getting together, because you're used to working across borders and having, I was going to say no government, but anyway. Yeah, so the prisoner's dilemma, which was mentioned by our UN colleague, data colonialism, where the UN system was actually built as a mitigation of detaching from colonialism, but still benefiting from a global market. These were mentioned. I think they reflected what you both, Eva and Stefan, thrown up here. So Davor.
Yes, thanks for the comments. I found them very insightful. It inspires all kinds of ideas, and I wish we could kind of carry the discussion for another half hour. But I'm sure now that we are partners, we'll find the right fora to kind of not just talk about it, but carry it forward, because I'm really inspired by some of the things you said. But we need to move to the next session. So I'll thank the speakers for the comments, the questions, the contributions. Martin also. We are now going to Africa, a bit more warmer than Germany, Brussels, Denmark type of a combo. So there it's a session where some of city leaders all out of Africa are creating links on how to tackle problems together. on that continent. It's related to a project that is ran by our also core partner, Connected Places Catapult. So without eating up their time, I'll now switch to that session. Thank you again, speakers, and for the audience, I'll see you on the other side. Thank you.